Jif peanut butter. It's that jiffing good, it doesn't really need advertising. So instead, enjoy the calming sounds of the ocean. Jif. Ooh, it's that jiffing good. Get your Jif at jif.com.
Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew, too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
At Thales, we know cybersecurity can be tough and you can't protect everything, but with Thales, you can secure what matters most. With Thales industry-leading platforms, you can protect critical applications, data, and identities, anywhere and at scale with the highest ROI. That's why the most trusted brands and largest banks, retailers, and healthcare companies in the world rely on Thales to protect what matters most. Applications, data, and identities. That's Thales, Thales. Learn more at thalesgroup.com/cyber.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Business. We could all use more time. Amazon Business offers smart business buying solutions, so you can spend more time growing your business and less time doing the admin. I can see why they call it smart. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
Tonight, turn down the noise of the day and focus on the rest with AGZ, the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. New from AG1. AGZ supports your body's natural sleep cycle with clinically studied key herbs, adaptogens, and minerals in amounts supported by research. And no melatonin, helping you wake feeling rested. Wind down, rest up with AGZ. Learn more at drinkagz.com.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Christian Muntean.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
The Hilton sale is on. For 10 days only, you can save up to 20% on stays this fall and beyond. Don't wait. The sale ends September 29th. Book your stay and save at Hilton.com. Terms apply. Hilton, for the stay.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar. Zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there is one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. there's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 125,000 bonus miles for a limited time through October 29th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends October 29th, 2025.
When your investors, customers, and workers demand more from your business, make it happen with SAP. The AI-powered capabilities of SAP can help you streamline costs, connect with new suppliers, and manage payroll, even when your business is being pulled in different directions. To deliver a quality product at a fair price while paying your people what they're worth too, so your business can stay unfazed. Learn more at sap.com/uncertainty.
If you thought goldenly breaded McDonald's chicken couldn't get more golden, think Golden, because new sweet and smoky special edition gold sauce is here, made for your chicken favorites. At participating McDonald's for a limited time.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
At Starbucks, we've more than doubled parental leave for full and part-time baristas, giving them up to 18 weeks of paid time off, so they can be there for early bedtimes, late nights, first laughs, and spend more time with the best company they know. At Starbucks, benefits like parental leave are just the start. Learn more about Starbucks industry-leading benefits at starbucks.com/partners.
Welcome to the conversation today.
Jonathan, it's good to be here.
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from Anchorage, Alaska. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about Christian's new book, Train to Lead, all about the importance of building up others in our leadership capacities and succession planning, and really just helping the next generation, kind of our bench strength, be prepared. We're going to really dive into his book and explore main themes together today. As we get started, I wanted to share Christian's bio with everybody. Christian Muntean has helped hundreds of businesses rapidly grow, increase profitability, and expand impact. He primarily works with entrepreneurial business leaders who are scaling their businesses or preparing for exit or succession. He partners with owners, boards, and executive teams as they make game-changing decisions. He is the author of 3 popular books, with the most recent being Train to Lead. He is a frequent guest on podcasts and has been a contributor to Forbes.com. Christian lives in Anchorage with his wife and 3 active children. He enjoys woodworking and practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is really cool. Christian, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background before we dive on in?
No, not really, other than leadership's a passion of mine, and it's something that I've committed my life to.
Awesome. I think that's wonderful. Well, tell us, let's start off with just kind of the why behind the book. Why this book? Why now? You've authored other books. Why this book? Why now?
Well, this book actually took probably about 15 years to write. This was the most difficult one in the sense of wanting to make sure that the concepts were really right and that they would work. But part of the genesis of the book is part of my background's in athletics. And I was a strength and conditioning instructor kind of as a side hobby for about 12 years. One day I was leaving the gym and I wondered, why is it that I can take an athlete and if they have a goal, let's say to run a marathon or they're going to do some kind of, sport event, whatever they're doing, 3 months out, 6 months out, 4 weeks out, I can create a training program that will have them peak to the day of their event when they need it. But when it comes to leadership, it seems to be that most leadership prep is here's a fire hose of ideas. If you get anything at all, which is the most common approach, is to get nothing.
Yeah.
If you get something, it's a fire hose. We're going to send you to some conferences, watch these videos, something like that. And good luck, don't screw up. And there's no real sense of, hey, this person's about to step into this role as a new CEO, a new general manager. They're being promoted to VP. And we plan that to happen in about 90 days. And so how do we begin preparing that person for things along with, besides the paperwork changes that need to happen, but how do we prepare that person for a very different role? And when you look at the statistics around succession planning, we see that about 66% of successions fail, or at least fail the expectations of the people orchestrating the succession. And that's pretty abysmal. It's pretty sad. And when you look at why, a lot of that has to do with just not good preparation. The book's not directly about succession planning, but it's really written for the leader themselves who's trying to prepare. And it's just as effective, I would say, for a leader who's in a role and realizes, I've been eyeballing this CEO position or the general manager position for years. And now that I'm here, the job is totally different than what I thought. And what do I do? And so it's really written to describe, here's what you do. And I try to pull from the best evidence-based practices and condense them in a way that, and I think the main thing about the book is I don't know that I really honestly introduce many new concepts in the book. Leadership is a very well-studied, very well-traveled trail. It's not it's well-researched. People understand what works. It's not always what makes it into the popular kind of conversations, but we understand what makes it work. What we don't understand is the sequences that you need to learn things, like what you need to learn first so that you can better learn something else later. And so people will start out trying to learn something complicated, like how to turn around a company or how to do an intensive, complicated strategic planning when they don't have the basics of their own self-management down, for example. And it makes it hard to implement some of these more complicated leadership skills when you don't have really some of the basics tied down. So I tried to lay the book out, not just in what needs to be known, but the order that you can absorb it in.
I like that. And I just want to point out to reiterate what you've already said, but that is people find themselves in these different types of positions, often with little to no training.
Right.
With the best of intentions, and often they're almost set up for failure because they haven't been supported to, in growing into this new position. And that's not to say that they're not capable, they're not smart, etc. Like you could have had a very successful career, you're very intelligent, you have great relationships, great networks, know how to get stuff done. Like all that can be true, and you can still end up in the next rung up. You get promoted eventually. What's called the Peter principle.
Right.
A lot of people get promoted into their level of incompetence. You're successful, you get promoted, and then it is totally different. You find yourself in a completely different role where success looks totally different, where what is needed to be successful in that role, what it takes is just different. And if you're not prepared for that, we really are setting people up for failure, which is extra sad because these were people who are our star people, right? And we've taken our star people out of positions where they're stars, moved them into positions where they're not ready, or, not ready. I mean, people are ready to make the move. They're ready to grow into that position, but they're not ready to hit the ground running in that position. They don't necessarily know what it entails, how it's going to be different. And it's super sad. It's sad for them and for their careers. It's sad for the organization. It's sad for the teams involved.
Right.
And it is preventable with some intentionality. And like you said, it's not rocket science. I suspect, I haven't read your book, but I suspect, like you identified yourself, that there's probably not like new groundbreaking things that are necessarily there. But it's not rocket science, but it's hard to do because we have to do the basic things consistently over and over and
Right.
over again. And we have to understand the fundamental shifts and differences between different levels as we find ourselves
Yes.
progressing through our career.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. It is sad when you see people that have all of the potential and drive and heart, and they're not really given the right. They're not teed up properly to succeed, and
It's a
then
great way to put it.
they
Yeah.
get discouraged, they get burned out, they get frustrated. Other people, they get a reputation that's negative, whatever the thing is, and it's not necessary, and it's not fair. And as you said, it's not rocket science, but it's also rarely done. And in the same
Yeah.
way, and the book is really patterned around. As I was looking at putting the concept together, I wondered there's a certain process of training or a certain kind of schema that's used for creating training programs for athletes that's used by almost all elite athletic trainers or coaches. And I wondered if there would be a corollary that would match with leadership. And as I started thinking about it, I realized there was. And the book follows that. So there's this basic introduction of you have to have the right inputs, the right sleep and right nutrition. So I looked at leadership corollaries of the right relationships, the right inputs into your life. I looked at basic conditioning, which in the physical world or in the athletic world has to do with the ability to manage stress and to handle new stresses in your body. In the leadership, that has to do with self-management and the ability to manage an increased load effectively. Then you build upon that strength, which is the foundation of any other kind of movement that comes out of that. And I looked at core leadership strengths that have been identified through research. And then out of that, you look at power. And I interpret, so power in the athletic world is the ability to harness strength quickly to generate momentum or to change the direction of something. So I don't mean it the way we often use power in leadership, where the ability to control something. I mean it from the sense of the ability to interject yourself into a situation and create momentum or to change the direction. So change or conflict or crisis. And then looking at endurance and recovery. And so good training programs work through these cycles where you build on each for a while and then get some improvement and then move on. And that's the way the book's structured with exercises for each. But the point I want to bring out is the concepts are mostly pretty familiar if people have studied it. The order is not, but it's like fitness or it's like training, like how to lose weight, how to become stronger, how to improve your bone density, whatever your goals are. We know all of that. But most of the people at the gym are not getting there. And it's because they're not doing some of the things in the right way. And I think that's true for a lot of people in leadership as well, is they're trying really hard. They're showing up. They're putting all the effort in. There's no lack of effort for most of them. It's just they can't gain traction. They can't figure out, well, what am I doing that's not getting me the results that I should be getting? And that's what I'm trying to help highlight in this book.
Yeah. To reiterate, like for most people, there's not a lack of good intent. There's not a lack of effort and commitment, right? Yeah. Like you have people who are smart, intelligent, capable. They've been successful in their careers up to that point. And I really like to assume the best of intentions, from people around me. And I think most people wake up in the morning, thinking, how can I be great for my team today, and not how can I get up today and like exploit people, like right. There's not like this sinister motive behind what most people are doing. Most people are good and trying to do good. And so it's not a lack of good intent. It's not a lack of effort. But it's just a blowing in the wind of not knowing how to put in place some of the basic things. And because most people don't have the training, they don't have a background in it, or much experience in leadership itself, then you have people kind of defaulting to what they've seen, right? They default to kind of the examples that they've had in their past. And a lot of times those examples aren't particularly good examples. Or maybe they were an example that worked okay in one situation, but doesn't necessarily work in a different context or in a different type of role, right? And so, I mean, it's only reasonable to expect that in a lack of targeted training, like that's what people would do, right? You're just putting your best foot forward, and you're going to rely on the experiences you've had and the examples that you've had. But a lot of those aren't particularly good examples. They're not going to actually help you be successful in the role that you're in. And that just makes it all the harder because you have good people, good intent, good effort, intelligent people, and yet they fall down over and over again because they're just not equipped. They're not teed up, as you said.
or it could even be amazing examples, but you don't see the background of how that person got there. So you have a successful podcast, and if somebody wanted to have a successful podcast and they try to just look at what you're doing from the outside and they don't understand your journey to get to this point, all of the things you had to learn, what you have in terms of, I assume, a team and all the different things that it takes to make a podcast work, and they just think you just show up and flip on your camera and go, and they don't understand what happened, and so that's even looking at a good example but not being able to understand what you're actually seeing because you can't see the background of it. So that's what I'm trying to show in that. And I think the biggest thing that happens so the two primary paths to leadership in most organizations is either you're very technically proficient at what you're doing, you're a great doctor, you're a great engineer, you're a great project manager in a construction company, you're a great designer, or whatever the thing is that you're good at technically, or you're great at sales in some way. You're good at bringing in money. Usually those are the two primary paths into leadership. And then once you get into a leadership role, you find that your job is now people. It's about providing direction and aligning people and dealing with people and being able to motivate them towards this larger direction. And all of a sudden, your ability to do business development or marketing, it's not that it isn't important anymore, but it's changed and it's not needed in the same way. And the same thing with the technical skills. It's good that you know those things, but those are not your job now. Or as you move up, they become increasingly less of your job, especially once you get into executive roles. And that is, I think, a very confusing shift for most of these leaders. Is like I was talking yesterday actually to a coaching client of mine that I did help step into a president role in a company. And when we were first talking about it, he made this comment. He's like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like going to job sites and kissing babies? And I was like, well, not exactly, but kind of. I mean, you do need to care about their babies. You do need to know about your people. Now, he went from initially sort of pushing away that concept of, because he was excellent at what he did technically. He's brilliant. He's a very, very smart guy. He was very good technically. And when he moved into this executive position, this idea of shifting to his job being mostly people, he did embrace it. And he's grown his company from 20 to just about 60 million in about 4 years as a brand new president. But it's because he embraced this concept of my job's about people. And the primary, I guess, principle of leadership development is that it's not about knowledge about strategy or about your company. It's about personal development. The more you're willing to grow as a person, the more effective you're able to be as a leader. And he really embraced that and has been able to take off as a result. And that's something that I would, really encourage your listeners to embrace, because I think that's the hardest part, because, I want to complain about the economy. I want to complain about how hard it is to hire good people. I want to complain about the competition. All the things that you want to complain about why you're having a hard time finding success. But if you're willing to look internally and say, well, what is it that I need to personally grow in, especially just as a human being, not just cognitively, but in terms of my attitudes, in terms of my habits, in terms of my practices, in terms of how I take care of myself, those things do translate into more effective leadership.
Yeah. I like to think of it in terms of, staying curious, lifelong learning, like whatever kind of framing you want to put on it. Like there's a certain intellectual humility that's present with people who are willing to do that self-reflection and introspection and willing to work on themselves amidst, working with the teams and working with the business to help it improve. People notice the difference, right?
Yeah.
So people that are working with you, they know the difference between that arrogant SOB who thinks they know it all and is a jerk to everyone around them versus the one that can still be super confident, decisive, all those things, but have a certain kind of curious a way about them, and they just have this intellectual humility about them, and they know they need to lean on the expertise of their people on their team, and all of that, and they start to kind of model and demonstrate for everyone around them, like we're going to have a learning culture, we're going to have experimentation culture, we have a safe place where you don't have to just fake it till you make it. Like you can demonstrate and work with others when there are gaps, and that's okay, and we can build and lift each other. Like that creates such a dynamic workplace when you can have that kind of a culture. And some of us have been lucky enough to work within those types of cultures. And I would suggest that probably the majority, though, haven't necessarily had that privilege. And so it sounds nice. People think, oh, theoretically that would be wonderful, but in reality that never happens. I'm like, no, it actually can happen.
It can.
And I
Yeah.
suspect from this example that you were giving, the way they grew over a short period of time, I suspect at least a large part of that was simply this honest, sincere desire of their leader who has the technical proficiency, but was willing to lean into the new role, be curious, be humble, work with the team, and they grow collectively, they grow together, right? And it's just a fundamentally different way of approaching growth, I think, than what unfortunately what we often experience.
Yeah. I think this particular leader is a good example of what Jim Collins wrote about in that old book, Good to Great, where he demonstrates humility, as you were describing, and this real passion for success for the company. And between the two, I think that allows a lot of growth and a lot of significance, because it is hard when somebody comes in, and it's very common. And the thing is that people may not know that this is in them, but they get into a role and they feel like, I have to succeed. I can't screw this up. And they're not thinking about that through the lens of, is this ego? Is this pride? Is this something like that? Because it feels like insecurity. But there's this dynamic where they become closed off to other people's inputs. They're hypersensitive to anything that feels like criticism. They're afraid to ask questions because that might suggest they didn't already know the answer. And so they limit their own growth. And this is maybe a hard way of saying it, but I think sometimes the stupidest rooms of people are rooms full of very, very smart, accomplished people who are afraid to say, I don't know the word that you just used. Like, I don't understand what you're saying. So I don't know how to participate, but I'm going to keep pretending I do. And we're all going to have this kind of big game. I mean, I think that's a very typical boardroom situation, to be frank, where there's a tendency of very successful people, but they don't want to admit, I don't really understand what's going on here or what our job is. And I don't even know where the curiosity should be placed in terms of what I should learn and what I should support. And so, I think that's important, that humility. But then it's also helpful if people know, well, what do I do?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I often tell my students, sometimes the dumbest people, like the most brilliant, most intelligent people I've ever met in my life are also the dumbest people, like, because they are like cognitively brilliant, but they don't necessarily have the self-awareness or capacity to have that intellectual humility to remain curious, or to leverage the collective curiosity of the room, to work together collaboratively. And so you like you said, it's not uncommon at all that you get a room full of super capable, successful, intelligent folks that if the culture isn't right, that room could potentially be one of the dumbest rooms that you're in, right?
Right. And the only way you're going to change a culture like that is you can't just bring in a process or tools. It has to come from somebody. It has to be inside somebody. I was working with a company that was really trying to grow, and the owner of the company came up and he was frustrated because they were going through these little cycles of trying and then it not working and trying and not working. And what it came down to was a lack of accountability. They didn't have a culture of accountability. And a lot of that was driven by the owner, who wanted to, like a lot of entrepreneurs, wanted to chase the shiny object and didn't necessarily want to stick with the thing. And so he wasn't modeling accountability or putting the energy into requiring his team to provide it. And he asked me, like, do you have a tool or a trick for this? And I was like, no, this is one of those things that as a leader, you have to wake up in the morning and just decide to do. It's like working out. Like, you got to make yourself go to the gym. I can give you a great workout plan, but you got to be the one to do it. And this is just like that. And that was a real challenging thought for him, because I don't know that he was ready to take ownership for those things. And so when you're trying to change a culture in a room and you find it's not producing the kinds of results that you want, good leaders will first look at themselves. It doesn't mean it's all themselves that created it, but I like what Dr. Henry Cloud says that in his book, Boundaries in Leadership, that you have the circumstances that you created or allowed if you're a leader. And I think looking at your circumstances and saying, okay, well, how have I helped create this, or how am I allowing this to perpetuate? And a lot of that change then has to do with some personal work that needs to be done. And it could just be being willing to be brave and courageous and say something that will rock the boat a little bit and make people a little bit uncomfortable, but it helps move them to a healthier place. I mean, when I was training people in athletics, pushing people into discomfort was something you did in every class. Is how do I push people a little bit farther? We're very cautious about doing that many times in leadership because you get that relational discomfort that can be there, especially if you're in an environment where there isn't a lot of trust or understanding of mutual respect.
Yeah. Oh, very well said, Christian. We've only scratched the surface here, but thankfully you have a wonderful book as a resource where people can dive in and dig in deeper. As we start to wrap up today, I just want to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find your book, and then give us the final word for today.
Sure. Yeah. The best place to connect to me is at my website, christianmuntean.com. My book is available Amazon and Barnes & Noble and anywhere that sells good books. I think my main thought is that being an effective leader is accessible, that you can train in basic small steps intentionally and end up better in 90 days or 180 days as a leader than you are right now, if you're willing to pursue that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Try to be just like 1% better every day on the little things, be a little bit more consistent. It'll make all the difference in the world. A month from now, 3 months from now, half a year from now, you'll be completely transformed. So it's definitely within everyone's reach. Christian, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to get connected, check out the book, and otherwise, reach out to Christian and see what he can do for you. As always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.